beers and more. WBC Pizza and Beer made here now for 14 years. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Hey, happy Tuesday. I know a lot to get to. Royals related. They, of course, played last night in Kauffman Stadium against the Braves. It was kind of a historic night for the wrong reasons for the Royals with the number of walks that they issued throughout the course of the game. Never want to see the most walks in team history in a game, but that's where we were at for the Royals last night.
That's where we were at. Just a rough game. We'll get into the game. The bigger news comes on the injury front. Before we do that, speaking of the baseball world, Ryan Sandberg died yesterday at the age of 65. I think a pretty popular, pretty favorite baseball player of people of our age. Tommy, that was tough to see Rhino go. I know it's been a cancer battle, I think, for a long time, but just that was tough news. We've had a rough go for American culture here the last few weeks. It's been a little rough on us.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Sandberg, for, people around our age, maybe a little bit older than us, in the 80s and early 90s, I mean, he was the best. You didn't really see second basemen hitting the way that a guy like Ryan Sandberg did. And there's a reason why he was so consistent and beloved in Chicago. The Gold Glove, what he did out in the field, multiple years of that, the All-Star appearances, everything like that. Of course, that was during a time when the Cubs were not winning World Series, and so he gets lost in the shuffle quite a bit. But he was a heck of a player, and always seemed like he did it the right way on the field. So definitely a big loss.
That was tough news to see that. There's some other things that we'll get into today throughout the show. Did you see the report that Bryce Harper kind of F-bombed Rob Manfred, got in his face a little bit on the day? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I guess
and that
Manfred alluded to a salary cap.
Yeah, that was a salary cap issue. I think Manfred sort of dangled that. And if you were gonna pick a player in Major League Baseball that would be the one that would have the cojones to get up in the face of a commissioner, it'd probably be Bryce Harper. So that's not overly surprising that he was the one that did that. But yeah, like it's definitely a contentious issue if Major League Baseball ever goes down that path.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, what does Bryce Harper have to lose? And he feels an obligation to protect people. We're going to have a strike in baseball again. It's coming. I don't know how much longer they can operate without a salary cap. The players will never concede that. We're going to have a strike in baseball. Like it's coming. It's always so close in baseball, but it'll happen. I think it'll happen. I hope we just kick the can down the road as long as we can, because that really sucked when we were kids to have to lose that season and do all that business. But I think it's going to happen. We can get it more into that as we make our way through it. Eugenio Suarez was hit by a pitch last night. Apparently, X-rays are negative, almost taking the top trade candidate off the market. Speaking of getting hit by pitches, Salvador Perez had to leave the game last night. It's interesting. I was driving when that one happened, and then I watched the video. Boy, it looked like he got him on the elbow pad, but it was swollen up apparently. I think, according to Aaron Rodgers after the game, he avoided the worst case scenario. The X-rays were negative. It's swollen, but the expectation is he'll be ready to go today. So that's good news. But that was almost on a day where we learn, by the way, as you wondered yesterday, Chris Bubich being done for the year. Salvador Perez leaves the game after Nick Lofton and Jack Caglione are already on the IL, and Cole Reagans and Michael Lorenzen. It's just like, whoa, let's chill here. This should be a happy time for the Royals.
And Daniel Lynch also on the shelf. Right. There are a lot of injuries that are going around with the Royals right now. Salvador Perez, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if he didn't play tonight. It's going to be another extremely hot night in Kansas City and in Wichita as well, for that matter. And you could tell last night that it was affecting the players. I mean, that heat index is, up over 105, close to 110. If I'm Matt Quatrero after what happened last night with Salvi getting hit, I'd set him down. I'd play Freddie Fermin at catcher. I'd put, somebody else at DH like a Jonathan India and have Pasquantino, of course, play first. I'd give him the night off. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Now, they're calling it an elbow contusion, But regardless of a pad or not on that elbow, when you're getting plunked by a Spencer Strider pitch, that's going to leave a little bit of a mark. And that's, of course, what happened last night for Salvi. It's a good thing that he avoided, from what it sounds like, the worst case scenario. But I don't think it's the worst situation in the world to give Salvi a night off. And I think that just even regardless with having, get hit by a pitch like that, probably not a terrible thing with the way that the weather is outside.
Yeah, it's it was a rough day for the Royals all around. We'll dig in the walks, all that stuff, and look ahead. I will say, just at a base level, you were going up against Spencer Strider, you were going up with Rich Hill. Like that's not that big a deal yesterday, but now they got to win the next two. So it's okay, and I appreciated that they rallied back late in the game and it got away from them and all those things, but. It's just kind of a bummer. Just kind of a bummer. Tommy, I'm glad Prairie Fire Coffee's here. Thanks to Prairie Fire Coffee for keeping us fueled up each and every day here on KFH. Glad to have them a part of things. We are going to give away some HTO later today. We're also going to give you a chance to win a trip to see the Zach Brown Band, Love and Fear, at the Sphere Las Vegas this December, including a 2-night stay and a suite at the Venetian Resort Las Vegas, the only hotel directly connected to the Sphere. It's easy to enter this national contest for a chance to win a trip to the show. Download the Odyssey app, listen to KFH for an hour at least. You can learn more at odyssey.com/Zach. Thanks to Messina Touring Group. Good luck there, everybody. All right, we've got more on the game yesterday and the happenings for the Royals. When we return, don't go anywhere. You can call us. You can chat with us on our video streams. It's all Brockton Caster at Sports Daily, and we're coming right back. Are we coming right back?
We can be coming right back. We'll be coming right back.
Lightning, hail, tornadoes, flooding. It's the worst of severe weather, and it's coming. Spring brings warmer temperatures, but also dangerous weather conditions. Stay up to date day or night with the Storm Team 12 weather app. You'll get accurate forecasts so you can plan ahead and stay safe, no matter the weather. Download the Storm Team 12 weather app, brought to you by Stutzman's Greenhouse.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
This is Rich Eisen. Check out The Rich Eisen Show, 11 until 2 on Wichita's #1 sports station, Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Odyssey is one of the most influential audio and entertainment brands in the nation. You already know Odyssey's iconic local radio brands in Wichita. But did you know Odyssey has the country's best collection of music, news, and sports brands? Odyssey is also a premium podcast creator, major event producer, and digital innovator. Odyssey brings people together across the country and right here in Wichita. Odyssey also delivers meaningful radio and digital audio results. Find out our story and impact at odysseyinc.com/Wichita.
Make yourself known now!
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my god, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into The Jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
On KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Sports Daily on KFH. Tommy Castor, Jacob Albrecht, Max Power producing the program here this morning. Going to get into the Royals as we get rolling here on this Tuesday. Of course, the Royals losers at home against the Braves last night. It was a game where, record-setting in some ways for the Royals. They issue more walks than they really ever have in team history. Rich Hill looked every bit of 45 years old last night on the program or in the game at Kauffman Stadium. And it was rough. I mean, it was obviously a sweltering night in Kansas City after a weekend of a flurry of activity for the Royals. They basically had a rough day. I mean, you get the news early on in the day that Chris Bubich is done for the year. They're shutting him down, with everything related to the rotator cuff issue and all of that. After that, then you have the situation where they're basically going out there and giving up more walks than they ever have in team history. So it was rough for the Royals. They have such an issue with Rich Hill last night that it was rough, Jacob. It was a rough night for them.
Yeah. Look, Hill is going to be what he is. Hill is going to try to limp by. I think he'll give them some good starts. He'll have to. But I think we have to be honest with what Rich Hill is. This all goes back to yesterday's conversation on potentially needing to add a pitcher, and that felt crazy to me. And then, you brought that up, and then Jalen Thompson acted like they're going to need to, like they're going to. And I'm like, what? Well, this makes sense now, right? Chris Bubich is out for the season, and here we are. I just like, I think they got to make a trade. Or what do you? I don't. Is Dallas Keuchel enough? Do you call up a AAA guy? Because right now, When is Lorenzen back? Lorenzen's back maybe next week. We don't know about Reagan's at all. They need to add a starter and have Rich Hill, it feels like. I don't know what else they're going to do here if you're kind of halfway all in. And there are pitchers to go get that aren't going to cost you a whole lot. But what a weird turn of events in the last 6 days to think they need to add pitching after you learn they don't trade away Seth Lugo.
Yeah, and what was a major depth piece for the Royals, probably their deepest positional area. I mean, they were they're dealing with it right now. They're going through it. And I texted you last night that Rich Hill looked every bit of 45 years old last night. He labored his way through 4 innings. I know it was extremely hot out there, last night. But especially what was in the 4th inning, 3rd or 4th inning, and he couldn't get it in the strike zone. I think I was watching it and he walked a couple of guys or walked several guys. And then the only way he could get the ball across the plate was to throw like a 70-mile-per-hour sweeper. That was the only way that he could get the ball over the plate. And I'm like, yep, this isn't good. The Royals need to figure something out here. And I know that, again, the conditions were difficult and, all of that. But I mean, he looked like an old man out there. He is an old man. I mean, he's 45. And so if you're going to roll him as part of your rotation moving forward with Bubic on the shelf and no real clear definitive idea on when Cole Reagans or Michael Lorenzen are going to be back, I do think you need to go and try to add somebody.
So Rick says that OMG, the team isn't good enough, even if they add a pitcher. That may be very well. That could be true. Like that's the challenge here. I don't know that we need to be that negative with it. That's not the point for me. Isn't are they good enough to add a pitcher? It's you've made a lot of decisions to sort of go for it this year, right? You've added Frazier, and you've added Grichuk, and you've extended Lugo, and you've done all of these things now. Granted, before you learned Bubic was out for the year, that you're kind of caught a little bit. Like it's hard to just be like, no, what? And you know what? We'll just kind of go with what we've got. There is a sense of urgency because you've made the decision, it feels like, to do some of these things. So yeah, you got to you kind of have to kick the tires and see what's out there, I would think. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. And look, I don't think they would go out and do anything crazy. I don't think they're going to be on the market for any pitcher that helps them beyond the home stretch this year, because with the re-signing of Lugo, assuming Bubic comes back, they have their rotation next year. On the other hand, we don't know about Bubic, long-term. It's a shoulder injury. They're always scary. Cole Reagans has a shoulder injury. That's 2 that have kind of snuck up. Maybe next year's not as solidified as you think. Do you look at a pitcher that might help you for more? I don't think so. I think at this point you just try to go find just a really inexpensive somebody out there, or at least go down to the farm. I have no idea how the Royals minor league pitching staff looks right now, but I don't know that Rich Hill and Dallas Keuchel over now what could be an extended period of time are going to be enough. And you've done some other things to go for it this year.
Yeah, I mean, Keuchel, I'm looking at his, small sample size stats in AAA. He's thrown 12 innings. He's got an ERA around 5 and a WHIP at about 1.5 in 12 innings thrown in the minors since the Royals signed him to a minor league contract. He's not it, and Rich Hill isn't it. Now they may be forced to be it. You may have to roll with the rotation of Waka and Cameron and Lugo, and then try to piecemeal together the other couple of spots in your rotation. Clearly not ideal. Clearly not an ideal situation whatsoever. And I mentioned these guys yesterday, and they brought up these names on the broadcast last night of guys that they expected to be in the rotation at some point this season. Alec Marsh and Kyle Wright were guys that had been penciled in to be rotation pieces on this team basically all season.
What is Marsh's status?
Well, I mean, they both had setbacks in their recovery. And so it's been, it's been a challenge for those guys too. And it's shocking, that now we're at a point where the most deep part of their roster is just completely decimated. really the only team that I can think of that's had worse luck with starting pitchers is the team that they're playing right now, the Atlanta Braves, who've had all 5 of their opening week starters now on the IL. And I guess that's a silver lining piece, I think, for the Royals over the next couple of days. I meant to bring this up in the last segment, but I'll say it now. You mentioned the Royals needing to win the next 2. They've got opportunities to win the next 2 because going on the hill tonight for the Braves is Eric Fetty, who they just acquired a couple of days ago from the Cardinals, and he has not been good this year. And the Braves brought him on for cash considerations, and it'll be his first start in a Braves uniform. He's got an ERA over 5, and he's 3-10. And then the game on Wednesday, they're throwing Joey Wentz. People who know me know that I'm a Braves fan. I don't even know who Joey Wentz is. So they don't have good pitching right now either. So I guess that is one benefit. I know you faced, Spencer Strider last night, but then you get a couple of basically nobodies for the Braves for the remainder of the series. So that is a silver lining, I think, for Kansas City.
Yeah, Joey Wentz has been around a while. He's not a nothing in the league, but yeah, you're not afraid of him. He's been all right since he came over to the Braves. But again, like now I think that the craziest part about it is that this pitching staff carries them right through the season and keeps them in contention. And then now the offense starts to heat up. Like I don't know if we're going to get a very long stretch of the offense performing the way it is and the pitching being even remotely healthy now with Bubic out, but it may just not line up this year. Who knows? You just could not get there. But they're gonna take a swing at it, right? And they've put themselves in a position to do it. So going to see what's out there. They're not going to go out and trade a top prospect for a pitcher. But if there is a pitcher equivalent to Grichuk or Frazier, go kick the tires a little bit and see. Or maybe it's Hill, and Hill just had a bad performance. I don't not trust Rich Hill, by the way. Like, that wasn't great last night, but despite 6 walks, Tommy, he still gave him a chance to win the game, right? The bullpen let him down as much as Rich Hill let him down. Cruz giving up 4 runs. Where the hell did that come from? Hill navigated and weaved his way sort of in and out of that mess. But they're going to have to be better around him. If he, does he walk 6 batters every game? No, he's not going to walk 6 batters every game. I think when he takes the hill, pun intended, that there's a decent chance he can give them 5 innings or 6 innings. And at that point, if that's your 5th starter, okay. The problem is now, like, what do we do with the Bubic injury on top of it? Because he's already filling in for somebody. So it's Cameron, right? It's Waka, it's Lugo, it's Hill, and you hope it's Lorenzen soon? Because what is it otherwise? You hope it's Reagan's at some point? That's the problem. Now they have this big hole. Rich Hill's already the fill-in guy. And now you need another fill-in guy. Have you watched it all? Have you paid any attention to what Dallas Keuchel's doing? I have not. I just know that they signed him.
No, I mentioned it a couple minutes ago. He's got an ERA around 5 and a whip at 1.5 in 12 innings in the minors. So it's a small sample size for the Royals in AAA, but it's not been ideal. He's not it. He may have to be it, but he's not. That's not an ideal situation.
Yeah, at that point, you pull up one of the younger guys at that point versus trying to take your shot there. We'll see what they do. They're going to have to hit a ton. We know that now. It'll probably have to be hit for more. I don't think it's panic time, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go find a pitcher. It's you've heard the rumblings now for the last 2 or 3 days. So why not? Why not go? I mean, you're all in. And again, nobody's saying go acquire Joe Ryan here or whoever the top pitching prospect or the top pitching candidate is on the market. Just go get somebody probably. Or, Tommy, do you say just ride it out and see what happens? As Rick alludes to, they're not good enough. What does your gut say? I'd say go try to find somebody.
I think if you can go to, a team that is looking to move somebody and it doesn't cost you a whole lot to go and try to acquire some more depth in the rotation, then I think you entertain that, as long as you're not giving up top prospects for it. The major move, as we know, and we talked about at length yesterday, it's the Seth Lugo extension for this year and beyond. They've acquired a couple of guys to help them offensively. They're not major splashes, but at least they got marginally better, I would think. I think that I'm okay with them not doing another thing and just rolling with what they have. But if they can get a cheap acquisition to help them with some depth in the pitching rotation, then I'm okay with that. They're dealing with injuries on both sides. Obviously, with the pitching now, with Salvador Perez exiting last night after getting hit by the pitch. You mentioned it in the last segment. Nick Lofton is on the concussion list. Jack Caglione, we don't know how long he's going to be out with a hamstring. There are some issues offensively as well. I mean, I don't know if you followed much of the MJ Melendez saga last night.
Just what you sent me.
Man, he's awful. He is objectively awful. When the Royals called him back up, he had an average of 0.85, and he's 0 for 10 since he came back up, and his average dropped to 0.70. And that's where it is right now. He also had a misplay in the outfield where he almost made a diving catch, but wasn't able to bring it in. And I think even a halfway decent left fielder makes that catch. He took a step back first instead of going in for it, and that caused him to have to dive for it. Like, just miscues and misplays. It's complete ineptitude, and the Royals really didn't have much of a choice but to force him back into action. So, yeah, I mean, there are deficiencies still on this roster. There's no doubt about that with the injuries and all of that. So it was not a great 24 hours for the Royals.
And that's what really salts the wound with the Salvi part of it. Like, you're like, okay, we're all watching this happen. We see that, Bubic is out, and it's like, okay, they're going to have to hit their way through the next week to 10 days. Like, they're going to have to, to score a bunch of runs and do what the pitching staff has done for the offense so often this year, and that's bailed them out. And then you see Salvi get drilled in the elbow. Like, all right, like this is maybe also just not their year, because this is becoming a comedy now. Like, what in the world is happening? What a while. We put it up last night, and I don't know how many days it's been, but it's been like a week that we've seen 3 players to the shelf, Seth Lugo extended, 2 trades made. Like, what a flurry. And then last night, it just continues. It's hard to make sense of it.
And if I'm going to telegraph kind of what I think is going to happen over the next couple of days, I wouldn't be shocked if the Royals win tonight and tomorrow afternoon. And then you've had 3 series in a row where they've won 2 of 3. And at that point, if they can pull that off, they're a game under 500 and probably gaining a little bit of ground potentially in the wild card. And so then you'll look at it, and I know there have to be a couple things that happen there, but it wouldn't shock me at all. That's the way this team has worked. It's like, as soon as you start to cast them aside and say, yeah, they look at this issue and that injury and these things going on right now, they rattle off a few wins and they're right back in it. And then as soon as you start to get a little bit of like, all right, they can make this thing happen, then they kind of fall off a cliff again. And it's such a pendulum swing back and forth with this team. It has been all season long. There really has been very few sustained situations where you look at the way that they're playing and you're like, all right, definitively, this is what we think about this team, because it can change on a dime, and it basically has all season long.
And at the same time, the Yankees lose, the Red Sox lose, the Rangers lose. I just like, this American League. I'm with you. I don't know what's going to happen. I would say the chances of them reaching the postseason are still pretty low. But every time I think that, I try to think, well, what is the win total, right? How many wins is it going to take to get into the playoffs this year? Is it 85, 86? And you're like, well, yeah, they could definitely get there, because nobody's running away with this thing. And even the teams, other than Toronto, who's lost 2 in a row, by the way, even the teams that were at one point trying to are no longer doing that. And so if not the Royals, then who's going to do it? So just play. It's fine. I think one of the smartest things about all of the decisions they've made with the roster in the last week or 2 weeks or whatever it's been is that nothing is limiting the future for them at all. Adding Frazier and Grichuk don't harm them in any way next year. Extending Lugo is obviously a move that helps them this year, but it's a move that helps them the next 2 years after that, potentially. Like, all of these things that they're doing aggressively are things that in this wacky, weird, maybe just wasn't destined to be season, still put them in a good position for the future. And I think as long as they continue to make moves that way, they'll be fine. We know now they have an appetite to spend money. That raises your floor in baseball a great deal, right? We've seen ownership now go out and spend money, big money, make significant moves the last 2.5 years. There's not a lot of teams in baseball that do that. We'll get into it, but that's why Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred have to get nose to nose in a locker room, because the Royals forever were one of the teams that didn't spend any money. Now they are. So I hope Royals fans don't feel like this sense of panic right now. Just feel sense of panic in that, God, this may be unraveling real quickly for right now, but big picture, it's fine. Like, it's going to be fine.
And the thing about the big picture look at it also is the fact that it would be different if they had unloaded Seth Lugo. If all of this was going on, if the injury bug had hit, if they were losing these games and they're like, you know what, we're going to sell, we're going to move Lugo, we're going to try to get value back for him, then it would be like, all right, let's just wipe the slate clean and look at a rebuild. This year is not going to work for us. And we're going to try to, keep this window open long term, but it's not going to happen right now. I think that they have shown that, look, we're going to still try to do what we can this year with the pieces we have, but at least we know the foundation continues to be set for the future.
I think they're going to go get a pitcher. I think they're going to go get a rental. We'll see. The deadline's in 2 days. So we're going to find out. It's Thursday night. We're going to come back. What happened with Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred, and what does it mean big picture for baseball? That's next on Sports Data.
Lightning, hail, tornadoes, flooding. It's the worst of severe weather, and it's coming. Spring brings warmer temperatures, but also dangerous weather conditions. Stay up to date day or night with the Storm Team 12 weather app. You'll get accurate forecasts, so you can plan ahead and stay safe, no matter the weather. Download the Storm Team 12 weather app, brought to you by Stutzman's Greenhouse.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message, so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
This is Rich Eisen. Check out The Rich Eisen Show, 11 until 2 on Wichita's #1 sports station, Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Odyssey is one of the most influential audio and entertainment brands in the nation. You already know Odyssey's iconic local radio brands in Wichita. But did you know Odyssey has the country's best collection of music, news, and sports brands? Odyssey is also a premium podcast creator, major event producer, and digital innovator. Odyssey brings people together across the country and right here in Wichita. Odyssey also delivers meaningful radio and digital audio results. Find out our story and impact at odysseyinc.com/Wichita.
Make yourself known now.
83-10-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Summer Concert Series is back in Wichita, NAFSCAR Park this weekend. The series returns Friday, August 1st with Lucky People Live on stage. Gates open at 6:30. Show starts at 8. Enjoy free live music, food trucks, and Friday night fun all summer long. We are glad that those are back. I heard good things about NAFSCAR the first time around last week. So go check out the Summer Concert Series. Tommy, you'll have to forgive me here. I went to a break early. I was a little spaced out coming back on the last one, and it's not for any fun or cool reasons. Have you ever taken magnesium? I don't
know. I have not.
Like
I'm I'm not 90 years old.
No. It's a normal. It's a very that has nothing to do with age. It's not fibersil or whatever it is. Okay. I think that's what you're thinking. Metamucil, I think, is what you're thinking of, not magnesium. Yeah, no, it's like a normal thing. So I don't know. I don't think we've ever talked about this. When I sleep, I dream like crazy every night without fail, insane dreams all the time. And so I wake up a lot at night, and someone's like, "Oh, you should try magnesium. That makes you like get into a better whatever it's called when you go into a deep sleep." So I did that for the first time last night, and I don't know if that's what it is. A little brain fog here this morning, if you can tell. So
I was a little worried about you. You know, if you're watching the video stream, we come back from our last break, and you're on. We thought maybe you were having technical issues, and I kept thinking, I'm like, is his screen frozen? Because you weren't moving, but you were blinking, and I'm like, something's wrong. What is going on with him right now? So I'm glad you're okay.
I was not doing anything abnormal in a break. I'm like browsing, usually X, to make sure we don't have any breaking news or like anything that we've missed. And I'm just looking at it. And then like all of a sudden it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, like how long have I been looking at this? And I look and you're talking. I look down at what time it is. I'm like, what the hell was that? Like, goodness gracious.
One thing I'm not, and I'll be completely honest about me and my abilities and my limitations. I'm not good at just rambling. Like if I know going into it, hey, like I've got to carry it for a while, but I off the improv off the top of my head and I rambled for probably 3 minutes, and I don't think anything I said was coherent. So you're brain fogging and I'm rambling.
Well,
It was a fun start to the segment.
Yeah, no more magnesium on radio nights. Apparently,
Have you done melatonin before? I've done.
Well, so here's the problem. Here's the problem with melatonin, and this is I don't know how many people this happens to, but I'm talking like vivid, remember every detail. Most of not I wouldn't say most of the time. Half the time, probably they're pretty like crazy. When I first was like, I should probably see if there's some like if this is because it's been like my whole life. It's not anything like nobody panic or worry about me or anything. And at first it was like, oh, you should try melatonin. And then I look that up and I'm like, melatonin can cause vivid dreams. And I'm like, well, that's probably not what I should add into the equation. So then I'm going through and somebody had mentioned magnesium, which is a very normal, like not that big a deal. And I don't even know that that's what, I mean, who knows? I could just not have slept. I have no idea. Yeah, so it's another one that's supposed to help you get into a deeper sleep. So
it could also help a couple shots of whiskey before you go down.
Yeah, I've tried that, believe it or not. I've tried that. Usually it's no impact for me.
Doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It's fine. I have lots of dreams. It's so when you learn that doesn't happen to everybody else. Like I talked to my wife. She's like, oh no, I haven't remembered a dream in like a month. And I'm like, what? I remember 4 last night. Every night. It's crazy. Maybe I am just going crazy. It's possible. This Rob Manfred, Bryce Harper story, when you see the headlines and you get like the push alerts of Bryce Harper tells Manfred nose to nose to get the F out of the clubhouse, you're like, what? What is going on here? And then you see the circumstances, and I guess Manfred's visiting 30 clubs and kind of talking about the future of the game. And of course, with the future of the game, the salary cap gets brought up, and clearly it's a sore subject. Guys like Bryce Harper really don't want to see a salary cap, right? Because they've made exorbitant amounts of money. There is an issue in baseball with the disparity of the money the Dodgers spend and the Marlins spend. How could you ever expect Miami fans to get fully on board knowing what a disadvantage they're starting with? I understand that problem. It is a problem, but it's a very unique problem for baseball. Baseball doesn't have the same kinds of revenue share numbers that the NFL has, right? Baseball barely even has a national TV deal. So everyone is sort of on their own in a lot of ways in baseball. They've all got individual television contracts. They've all got like the economics for different clubs are just very different. Now, there are bad actors. The Marlins are one of them. There are bad actors. There are teams all over baseball that flat just won't spend any money. And we know they're making money, right? They won't spend it. So I don't know what the solution is. But the problem is, how could you ever go back to it'd be like if baseball owners were like, you know what, we want to stop fully guaranteeing contracts. It's why the NFL is so adamant that nothing happens and they're colluding and doing all these things to make sure we don't go down the road of guaranteed contracts, because you can't go back from that. Once you go to a salary cap, you can't go back from that. And the players know that. And the players do put up with a lot of silliness in order to keep the salary cap away. How much baseball they have to play before they can become free agents, the arbitration process, the roster time that you have to spend before arbitration begins. All of this other garbage that the players put up with is essentially at the table so they don't have to have a salary cap. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm not surprised to see it get that tense between one of the biggest representatives of the players, whether he's in an official capacity or not, in Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred, because we have some issues. And I honestly, Tommy, like, I don't know in a negotiation how you figure that. It's why their labor negotiations are always so contentious in baseball. I don't know how you get there.
Yeah, I think everybody probably needs to buckle up and understand that once the current CBA is up at the end of 2026, we may be headed for a work stoppage of some kind. And look, if you go back into history, the last time there were games that were missed, you go back to the strike in 1994. That was in direct relation to owners wanting a salary cap. That's the number one reason why we had a work stoppage, why we had games that were missed, why the World Series was called off in 94, all of that. There were other issues, but that was the major one, was the fact that at that point, the owners were talking about a salary cap. And here's the thing. That was over 30 years ago. And a lot of the same arguments that the owners have now were the arguments that they were having back then about the disparity between markets and, how it created an unfavorable economic environment from one city to another. And the players had the same argument that they have now. And the fact that it was more about holding down salaries overall than it is about trying to make it a fair playing field amongst all the teams in Major League Baseball. The one thing that the owners have now that I don't know how much this plays into the negotiations or the way things ultimately end up is the fact that they're the only holdout in major sports around the country. Every other major organization has a salary cap. The NBA does, the NFL does, the NHL does. Major League Baseball does not. And so I think that's the only thing to keep an eye on, is that clearly, there's been developments happening in every other major professional sports organization in the country to have a salary cap. Major League Baseball is the only holdout. And that may ultimately be the major sticking point that does ultimately lead to some kind of work stoppage down the road.
Yeah, and the reality is, if you're the players, and it's so multifaceted, because there's the competitive, you want parity, you want all these things. This is the most parity we've ever seen in this league. Like, there are Tampa doesn't spend any money. They're in it, sort of. Cleveland's always in it. Milwaukee is down in the bottom third. They're one of the better teams in baseball. Cincinnati, Kansas City's still down there, although they've increased it a great deal. They're down there. Detroit's in the bottom half, right? Like, it doesn't always. Now, if you look at the top half, though, Mets, Phillies, Dodgers, Blue Jays, Rangers, Yankees, Giants, Padres, Cubs, like that top 10, until you get to the Braves because of all their injury issues, they're all good, right? Like, so I think it's not that it's just that spending money, usually you're going to be good, but you can be good without spending it too. And so for these teams that aren't doing it, they'll be like, what do you mean competitive? We're right there. I think that there would have to be concessions. Like, if baseball wants a salary cap, then the arbitration process has to end. The delaying when the timetable starts for players, that, like, all that stuff would have to go away. Like, you couldn't do any of that anymore. I think a salary floor makes a lot of sense. I think if you could force teams to spend a certain amount or face dire consequences, that would help the players. That could be a concession. Yes, there's a salary cap, but there's also now a salary floor, right? Whatever number you could come up with. I mean, you've got the Dodgers with $330 million of money being spent, and the Marlins with 70. I mean, the Mets at 332.
And those two teams are in the same division. They play in the same division. And there is, what is that, 5 times?
4.5 times.
4.5 times more money. And I think that, I actually really like the NFL salary cap model. And the reason I like it, and when it relates, like, specifically to the Chiefs, the team that we follow, it's so much fun to try to watch the way that Brett Veach and the Chiefs navigate the salary cap every single year. And they have to move things around, and the way that they try to build their team. Like, that's a really cool storyline, and it's fun to watch. And the teams that do that the best are usually the teams that are the most successful. And the teams that don't manage the cap well usually have issues. I mean, look at the Bengals right now. They're having issues with the salary cap. They didn't really manage it particularly well. That's never the case in Major League Baseball, because there is no cap, and it's just an arms race. For the teams that have the money, it's an arms race. And so, if you can put in, and I know it's going to be a struggle and a battle, and the players don't want it, and the union, all of that, I get all of that. I think it would make a much more exciting
It'd be better for
offseason.
the fans. Yeah,
Yeah, much more exciting offseason.
It would be better for the fans, but that's not what's going to determine anything here. Because this is a business conversation, and the other harsh reality is like attendance numbers in the NFL are not as far reaching for the most part as what you might see in Major League Baseball. You've got teams that would say, okay, well, you have to commit to spending a certain amount, that are sitting there saying, yeah, we're drawing like 8,000 people a night. Like, we can't justify that. And it's the chicken and the egg, right? Well, if you did, you'd have more fans. And like, baseball is just more complicated. It's not a national TV sport. You don't have the same kinds of revenue sharing. Everything is somewhat localized. So you have different economics at play all across the league. Honestly, what we have now is probably the correct answer. You have, players have the ability to make as much money as they can without the hindrance of a cap. Owners have different mechanisms in place to avoid disasters and catastrophes contractually. So I don't know what's going to be any better than what they currently have. I really don't. And I'm all ears. But, man, it's going to be tense, and I think we'll see a stoppage. All right, we'll come back next hour. We'll talk some football. We'll get back to the Royals, and we'll browse around the rest of the sports world as well. It's Sports Daily on a Tuesday. Stick around.
Lightning, hail, tornadoes, flooding. It's the worst of severe weather, and it's coming. Spring brings warmer temperatures, but also dangerous weather conditions. Stay up to date day or night with the Storm Team 12 weather app. You'll get accurate forecasts so you can plan ahead and stay safe, no matter the weather. Download the Storm Team 12 weather app, brought to you by Stutzman's Greenhouse.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
The canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message, so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
This is Rich Eisen. Check out The Rich Eisen Show, 11 until 2 on Wichita's #1 sports station, Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Odyssey is one of the most influential audio and entertainment brands in the nation. You already know Odyssey's iconic local radio brands in Wichita. But did you know Odyssey has the country's best collection of music, news, and sports brands? Odyssey is also a premium podcast creator, major event producer, and digital innovator. Odyssey brings people together across the country and right here in Wichita. Odyssey also delivers meaningful radio and digital audio results. Find out our story and impact at odysseyinc.com/Wichita.
Make yourself known now.
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the Jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome back in, everybody, to another hour of Sports Daily. We've got Felix Johnson joining us. We'll talk a little NFL, a little Chiefs, look around the league as we make our way through this hour. We'll get back to the Royals. We'll take you through some other headlines. It's all what's on tap, brought to you by the Wichita Brewing Company. Join the 14th anniversary party at WBC Delano on Saturday with live music, rooftop DJ, free indoor mini golf, anniversary beers, and more. WBC pizza and beer made here for 14 years. Tommy, there were a couple of mass shootings yesterday, which are always really hard. We're learning this morning the second one, which came out of New York, appeared to the guy was trying to target the NFL. The mayor of New York says, and you read it, he had some things going on physically or mentally that he was blaming on his time playing football. I'm not sure, but pretty frightening. I guess he got off on the wrong floor or something of this office building. Just horrible situation there yesterday.
Yeah. Apparently he was carrying a note in his pocket that said that he thought he had CTE and was upset about that, was targeting the NFL headquarters. Apparently there was an NFL employee that was injured in the shooting. But then there were other people that were not affiliated with, the NFL that were hurt in the shooting and all of that. The suspect, I believe, was shot and killed. With all,
I believe he shot himself.
Shot him, yeah. So just a horribly tragic situation there. And I mean, especially when you realize Midtown Manhattan, obviously how busy it is down there, and he's trying to target the NFL headquarters. That could have ended up a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it's just a horrible story. I'm sure we'll get more details on that throughout the day, but that did happen last night, I think, or late yesterday. All the news kind of came out of it last night. At least that's when I started to see it. But that story's out there as it develops. We'll keep you apprised of it. Very sad and unfortunate situation there. The Royals lose last night 10-7 to the Braves. It was not a great performance from Rich Hill. It was on a day of pretty brutal Royals news with Chris Bubich. Salvador Perez was drilled by a pitch. He had to leave the game. Sounds like he's going to be okay. But we're now the deadline now, 2.5 days away, Thursday night. And we'll see. It's been a little quiet for a deadline this year, I would say so far. I don't know how much noisier it's going to be. I kind of think it's not going to get super noisy because there's so many teams in the same sort of feel as the Royals. Like, kind of, I mean, the Royals, has there been any team more aggressive at the deadline so far than the Royals?
The Mariners have been pretty aggressive. The Yankees have made a couple acquisitions. That's pretty much it at this point. It's been relatively quiet. And now with Eugenio Suarez, who knows what his status is moving forward? Will the Diamondbacks ultimately be able to get a return that they feel like they want to get for him?
The Twins have been sellers, and the Twins, if they sold Joe Ryan, that would probably net the biggest return on the market, which is why I think there are a lot of Twins fans advocating for that. We would love to see it here because it would mean a lot of those great prospects they would get in return might end up in Wichita, which would be cool. So keep an eye on that. But there haven't been a lot of obvious sellers. There haven't been a lot of obvious buyers at the deadline. I don't know that that's going to change in the next 48 hours because it probably, Tommy, because all these teams are just like, well, we're kind of right there. Are we in? Are we out? I think we thought we would see teams like the Mets go crazy. The Blue Jays now, as they've got a pretty big lead. The Cubs have been rumored for a lot of deals, but even these best teams in baseball that you might think that about, none of them are even winning games at a 600 clip. I don't have this in front of me, but I bet you if we go back and look over the years at the standings as of 28th in Major League Baseball, how often do you think we would not have a team with at least a 600 record? I mean,
not many.
So I don't want to sit here and say this never happens because, of course, it could without the data and the information in front of us. But, man, it's got to be rare. There are no elite teams, and there are very few really bad teams. And it's been that way all year. And as we have the conversation on competitive balance and, we have to do more to get these it's like, how could it be more competitive than this? Who would you even definitively, without looking at the odds, like who would you even call your World Series favorite at this point?
That's really tough. Probably the Brewers at this point. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who that team is. The Brewers, the Blue Jays have quietly went about their business and they look pretty good.
Yeah, I guess. But then you think about the postseason and you say that, and what if a team like the Rangers get into the postseason with DeGrom and Eovaldi going in a series?
I would have said a couple weeks ago the Tigers definitively,
right.
And they've kind of fallen off a cliff as of late. Yeah. I mean, there are so many teams that are in the mix, and that's been the case for quite a while. I mean, this has sort of been, I think we've been going down this path for quite a while where you have your few definitive sellers that are out there, but you don't really have like really, really definitive all-in buyers. You have teams that are looking to get better and improve and that sort of thing, but you can't just look at a team and be like, that is the team that is going to add X, Y, and Z for sure definitively. Other than the big market teams that that are always active. The Yankees are always active.
And you can't even look at those teams and say that is the team to beat. We all thought that would be the Dodgers. Remember, this was going to be the year where it's not fair and the Dodgers, like it's gotten out of control and they're just going to win 110 games and nobody. They are I mean, the Dodgers aren't even, they're what, a game? They're I think 3 games up on the Padres. Like they don't even have the best record in baseball. So I think it feels sort of like a let the chips fall where they may situation for a lot of teams. The Royals have been aggressive, but I think aggressive in the right way, right? Here's a couple of guys that fill some needs. It didn't cost us anything, but I don't know that we're going to see a bunch of monumental moves this year at the deadline. Teams are more inclined to hang on to their players. You'd have to, it's going to have to be like the Mets, the Cubs, maybe the Blue Jays. I mean, the Dodgers could always do it. But other than that, the Phillies, I feel like the Phillies need to be a team that should be being pretty aggressive right now. But I don't, we'll find out. Boy, if you're the Twins, aren't you shopping a guy like that? I don't know why they ever thought about trading Joe Ryan. He's got so much control. I think this might be kind of a dud deadline. Famous last words. Mark it right now, Max. 8:08 on July 29th. I think it could be a dud deadline. And I kind of hope that comes back and blows up in my face because I love the trade deadline.
Well, it got pretty active late last week with some bigger moves, Josh Naylor and, Brian McMahon and others that got moved. It's been quiet the last couple of days, but I would imagine, I'm going to disagree with you. I think it picks up here, and really that's going to be, some of it's going to be based on the health of Suarez and teams that have been in on his sweepstakes. If they're still going to be in, depending on the results of the x-rays and all of that, are they going to want to jump in head first on Eugenio Suarez if he's got a hand injury? So I think it's going to be, a little bit predicated on that, but I do think we're going to see some things pick up, especially in the pitching market.
Ryan McMahon's hitting 223. Grichuk, Frazier, McMahon, Naylor was a big move. If those are our big moves, we're just okay. I don't know if we're going to see it. I hope I'm wrong. I love the trade deadline. I'm fascinated by it. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting. I think it's a pretty wild time when you look at the last two off seasons and can say the Royals have been perhaps baseball's most aggressive team in the last two off seasons and baseball's most aggressive team at this year's trade deadline.
I mean, I thought
wild times we live in.
I thought it was funny that the Tigers, and they've been a good pitching team for most of the year. They now have more pitchers on their staff now. They traded for Chris Paddock. And that was an interdivisional trade. I mean, the Twins moved him to Detroit, which is always interesting when that happens. And so you had that move. Danny Jansen comes over to the Marlins from the Rays. So there have been moves, but everybody, all eyes are on Eugenio Suarez and what ends up happening with him.
I'd say he and Joe Ryan. If they actually decide to sell Joe Ryan, he becomes a bigger piece even than Suarez. But those are Suarez is a rental. Man, he could make a huge difference for somebody. But we'll keep it. So again, it's Thursday. I believe it's the evening this time. So it's Thursday. We've got a little time. We'll see if the Royals get another one in there as they have some major pitching depth issues. All right, when we return, Felix Johnson joins the show. We'll talk a little NFL. We'll visit Chiefs camp. We'll have some fun with it. Don't go away. We've got more Sports Daily coming your way right after this.
Lightning, hail, tornadoes, flooding. It's the worst of severe weather, and it's coming. Spring brings warmer temperatures, but also dangerous weather conditions. Stay up to date day or night with the Storm Team 12 weather app. You'll get accurate forecasts, so you can plan ahead and stay safe, no matter the weather. Download the Storm Team 12 weather app, brought to you by Stutzman's Greenhouse.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message, so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
This is Rich Eisen. Check out The Rich Eisen Show, 11 until 2 on Wichita's #1 sports station, Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Odyssey is one of the most influential audio and entertainment brands in the nation. You already know Odyssey's iconic local radio brands in Wichita. But did you know Odyssey has the country's best collection of music, news, and sports brands? Odyssey is also a premium podcast creator, major event producer, and digital innovator. Odyssey brings people together across the country and right here in Wichita. Odyssey also delivers meaningful radio and digital audio results. Find out our story and impact at odysseyinc.com/Wichita.
Make yourself known now.
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
And welcome back in. Joining us now is our Chiefs Insider, Felix Johnson. Glad to have Felix in. You can follow along with Felix's work at Felix R. Johnson on X. You can find his work at the Talk Ball Podcast, at Arrowhead Addict. Felix, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing? Training camp started.
Yeah, training camp started. We still don't have any news on Rashee Rice. I think the most interesting thing happening across the offensive line. The reports on Josh Simmons running around in shorts have been good, and he's been in pads a couple of days now. Andy Reid, in his most recent availability, was asked and talked sort of about Juwan Taylor. It sounds like the things we've been talking about in the offseason, I don't know that anything's guaranteed this year for Juwan Taylor.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, and we've talked about how Kansas City's probably not going to be paying 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen, and at least for the long term. And if Juwan Taylor is a guy that they can get off the books moving forward, then they're probably going to do something like that. But Seeing Jalen Moore, the free agent signee from San Francisco, coming in and competing for that right tackle spot is pretty interesting. But the highlight of the weekend, you could say, is Josh Simmons stepping in and at least playing with the ones. And I know it's training camp. It's late July, almost August, and this is what we have right now, though. It's the fact that the rookie that they got at the end of the first round and even traded down to get, and he's coming back from the injury, that's the most positive news possible, that he is running with the ones this early into training camp, this early into the season in general. So that is pleasing to see, and that is about the only thing that Kansas City is facing, other than the Rashee Rice mess. But we've seen Patrick Mahomes do a lot more with a lot less, and that's including the offensive line.
It was interesting because we entered training camp with Jawan Taylor on the PUP list, and now he's off the PUP list and in pads, and he's been in a rotation at right tackle with Jalen Moore. And I wonder, like, when I first saw that he was off the PUP list and back at training camp and all of that, my first thought was, I wonder if he is rushing his way back because he knows that he's got to compete, for this right tackle job, because it's not just going to automatically be given to him. What do you think about the opportunity that Jalen Moore potentially has at right tackle, and what the Chiefs want to do with that position?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be really interesting moving forward, is that Jalen Moore, coming into the season, everybody expected him to be at least the bridge at left tackle until Josh Simmons was ready, whether that was developmentally or health wise. So I think that him stepping in as potentially the starter on the right side would be perhaps even better for the Chiefs, because he is just cheaper. I mean, for the reasons that we mentioned earlier, is like Jawan Taylor, if they can break even skill wise, but Jawan Taylor's still one of the most penalized players in football next year, then it's a pretty easy decision of like, oh yeah, pull that guy off the field because he keeps getting penalties, and the other guy who is almost as good or just as good or whatever the case may be can play him. And so I think it's a pretty simple football move in a situation like that. But we'll have to see if the situation gets there. And Jawan Taylor, there's a reason he got a 5-year, $80 million contract.
I mean, the best case scenario is they're rotating and all of them are contributing this year. Somebody's going to get hurt. Another story that's been interesting is Jalen Royals. He's getting talked up a little bit more, it feels like to me, than even Rice or Worthy were in their rookie years. Yeah. He's catching some chatter. We're hearing things about how cerebral essentially he's been in all of this. With Rice going down, boy, it seems hard to believe a rookie could help fill any sort of role in the Kansas City offense, but Royals catching some buzz here in training camp.
At least early, for sure, because we've seen the Andy Reid playbook be so difficult for guys that you just mentioned, Rice and Worthy. They just catch on by the end of their rookie seasons, and it just takes time in the NFL because that's how it works. I think it has to be that way because Rashee Rice is going to be out for the first 4 to 6 weeks, or perhaps more, depending on what the NFL decides to come down with. And so I think that Patrick is probably targeting him a little bit more because it's training camp, because you can get these reps out early if he does happen to screw up or whatever the case may be. It happens in training camp against your own defense, not in the regular season when the game starts to actually matter. So I think it kind of has to be that way, whether or not he's going to be that massive of a contributor early on. But I'm glad to see that he is getting the looks that he's needed.
One of my biggest questions this offseason has been, what does the defensive line other than Chris Jones look like? And of course, they go out and they get Omar Norman-Lott in the draft, the second-round pick. And he's also been a guy that has turned some heads at training camp. I know he tweaked his knee, I think it was, a couple of days ago, but it does sound like he's a guy that, could potentially be an impact player from day one. What do you think about what he's done so far?
Well, I've always thought it was kind of interesting because the NFL has kind of shifted to this as a whole, where the interior of the defensive line is not necessarily more important than your edge rushers. Like, there's still your Myles Garrett's, Micah Parsons, and TJ Watts who are getting paid all across the league. But you're seeing more guys like Milton Williams from the Eagles. Now we got the big deal with the Patriots this offseason. Obviously, Chris Jones, and going back even further to Aaron Donald, it seems like really long time ago, but he just retired a couple seasons ago. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame here pretty soon. So I think that we've seen this dramatic shift in defenses, that the center of your defense is very important. Just kind of like in baseball, your middle infield, your center fielder, your catcher, these are your most important defensive players. And so that's why I think a lot of the league is shifting that way, and the Chiefs in specifically, because they've never really had another interior guy outside of Chris Jones who can win a one-on-one. Colin Saunders, you had Turk Wharton, who got a big deal with Carolina. There were little spurts, little moments of it here and there. Charles Omenihu, when he got moved inside a little bit, could win a one-on-one, but he was more of an edge rusher, more of a true defensive end type. So I am excited to see what Kansas City can do if they can have that second interior force, because if you have another guy that's going to demand a double team every once in a while, well, guess what? Chris Jones will win his one-on-one no matter what. So I think that's going to be interesting. But then you have guys like George Karlaftis on the edge that helps you out even more. So, I mean, as interesting as it is, and as many pieces as Kansas City is adding to it, they're already a very, very efficient defensive line. And when you're adding in the fact that Chris Jones is getting a bunch of double teams, it opens up a lot of opportunities for other guys.
Felix, speaking of defensive line, these defensive end contracts are kind of getting out of control here. When you look at what guys are getting and what the contribution or the overall team thing is, and maybe this is just my own personal crusade here, but I see some of these deals, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Brian, the Max Crosby, the biggest deals, other than Chris Jones. He's kind of the outlier in this, but especially these edge rushers, they're making too much money in relation to their team's success. The George Karlaftis deal, when I look back at it, when you look at what these other guys are getting, like for him to land outside that kind of that top tier does feel a little like a win for the Chiefs. It's just paying those guys top money is not right now translating to success in the NFL for these teams. It's like you can't pay a quarterback and an edge rusher half your salary cap.
Well, and I think in the cases of the guys that you just mentioned there, you mentioned four pass rushers. You mentioned the four best edge rushers in football.
Yeah,
so
they're the highest paid guys, and their teams suck.
And absolutely, but I think you mentioned it in, you kind of totaled yourself in there, where it's like Chris Jones is the outlier. Well, who on the quarterback side is the outlier? It's Patrick Mahomes, because he is the only guy.
And I think it's important, right? Because okay, there's that. But then for everybody else that doesn't have that.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, I think that everybody else who doesn't have that, you've seen that the Eagles, who just won the Super Bowl this year, they had more of a pass rush by committee, if you will, just because that's how their defense kind of had to be set up over the last couple of years. But then you see who they've drafted over the last couple of years: Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, different guys who are going to have to be paid. And so it's just that they have the talent level of guys that are going to deserve to be paid over the next couple of years, but they're too young. They just haven't made it yet. So I think it is kind of a little bit of a flawed logic, because I think that if you go to the same, if you take that same logic and then apply it to the Micah Parsons situation, that's like saying, yeah, don't pay him. Well, he's a 25-year-old edge rusher who has never gotten in trouble. He's a homegrown first-round pick for the Dallas Cowboys. He's incredibly popular. He is the number one candidate to get signed, and he still has it for whatever reason. And so you're going to drag on the situation for even longer, and it's going to cost these teams even more money than what they're already in. And so even if you do believe that these mediocre teams have great defensive ends, well, it's only going to get worse if they want to keep those great players regardless of what position they play, because the numbers are only going to grow even more, because they're not signing them. They're not just like Jerry Jones is, and this is the extreme situation. Jerry Jones isn't signing Micah Parsons because he doesn't sign anybody else, but they're not going to have $10 million to sign whomever else. And so I think that's the bigger flaw in that, like, if you wait longer and longer and you trade the guy and you just don't have him on your team and you cross your fingers that the 2 first-round picks that you got back for him work out, when you had this Micah Parsons or whomever else right there in front of you, a Hall of Fame type player, and you traded him, you're sitting there like the Dallas Mavericks who traded Luka Doncic, and it's like, well, you could have been in a championship situation when obviously different sports with a championship contributor who we've seen players like that throughout history contributed massively, like a Von Miller, like a Lawrence Taylor, to championships. And I know things aren't happening currently in this league, but like they were in the past, but it has to work out because these guys are effective currently. We've seen Nick Bosa go to Super Bowls. We've seen guys like that be effective regardless of what position they play. They just deserve the money. You got to give it to them because that's the business.
If the Cowboys do trade Micah Parsons, I know that there will be multiple teams that will be vying for his services and will make that trade. I have a hard time stomaching the idea of what it's going to take to get Micah Parsons.
Jerry Jones is not going to trade Micah Parsons. That's the thing. He's not going to do it. He's going to just pay him, whether it's going to be like he did Dak Prescott at the beginning of the season last year, 2 hours before the season started. Like, I didn't mean to interrupt here, but it was just like, he's just not going to trade him because that's not what Jerry Jones does.
But should he?
He should pay his 25-year-old edge rusher.
He should trade him.
Been in the Defensive Player of the Year.
Is Micah Parsons going to help the Cowboys?
Career.
Is Micah Parsons going to help the Cowboys win a Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
He is.
If he's on the Cowboys, if he's not on the Cowboys, he won't help the Cowboys win the Super Bowl.
So you think that do you think that keeping Micah Parsons around will be the reason the Cowboys win a Super Bowl?
Do you think that not having Micah Parsons will keep the Cowboys further from a Super Bowl?
No, not if they. The problem with it is you're trusting the
trade
Cowboys
has
to do something well with the money saved.
The trade has to work.
You've committed the money to Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is not Patrick Mahomes. Dak Prescott needs all the help he can get. The unfortunate part is Micah Parsons doesn't help Dak Prescott. They must make it as easy as they can.
They've got Dak Prescott all the help they can get him. They got CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. They've drafted three offensive linemen in the past three drafts. No, for sure. That's something that needs to be fixed. But you know that you can do running back by committee. People around here like Deuce Vaughn, but you like Deuce Vaughn. You don't love him. And so I think that it is, again, if you lose Micah Parsons, you have to win the trade. And do you trust Jerry Jones in free agency with the money saved? Do you trust him in the first round looking for another Micah Parsons? Because it took them to be in the top 10, or I think he was drafted number 12 overall, and they traded down from 10 to get him, if I'm not mistaken. I might have the trade compensation wrong or whatever it may be. But they have one of the three best defensive players in football on their team. It'd be incredibly silly to say, yeah, we're not going to win the Super Bowl with him on our team.
Okay, well, the Steelers and the Browns have the two best defensive players on their team.
They have other issues. Do you think that the Cowboys' offense is better than both of those offenses? Absolutely. Yes. And they're in a better division, or better conference to get to the Super Bowl. And so, I mean, if you factor all of those different things in, like, sure, the Steelers and Browns, but that's the only thing those teams have going for them. Maybe, and they have those two teams in particular. They have the Bengals and Ravens to deal with. So, and the Cowboys, they've got the Eagles and Commanders to deal with. But in the NFC in general, they might have the best quarterback.
What about Trey Hendrickson? That's the other big player out there, the big edge rusher that hasn't gotten a new deal yet, and the Bengals have. They've kind of made a little bit of a mess over what they want to do here, and the fact that they prioritized re-signing the offensive weapons, and they have really not a whole lot. The cupboard's pretty bare. Defensively, a brand new defensive coordinator. What do you think ends up happening there?
It is particularly frustrating if I was a Bengals fan, which thank God I'm not. I think that when you had a guy like Trey Hendrickson who led the league in sacks last year, and your defense was still that bad, imagine how much worse it's going to be without him. And so, like, I mean, it's what are the Bengals trying to do? Because they have other teams in this division that, I mean, to get Aaron Rodgers off his platform, guess what you need? Pass rushers. If you need a Lamar Jackson to, I'd get him off his platform, he'll probably take off for 100 yards on you in a game, but you still need pass rushers. You need pass rushers in this league, and they went and drafted one. Well, they can't even figure out how to sign him. They can't even figure out how to sign the guy that they homegrown. It's Trey Hendrickson. Nobody really ever heard of him prior to these last couple of seasons with the Bengals. sign him for the same reason that you signed T. Higgins and different situations like that. But where's the money coming from? That's kind of their problem, is that like they probably should have traded him before the draft where they could have got compensation for him, but they just weren't moving quickly enough just because it's an owner acting as the GM just like it is in Dallas, and they can't figure it out correctly.
I just am not sure paying edge rushers is the path to success in the NFL.
I think you're viewing it too much as edge rushers as opposed to these are the best players in the league. Like
there's a difference in Chris Jones, who affects things so much more in the run game and in the interior pressure. He's harder to replicate, quite frankly.
Exactly. How many of Chris Jones are there? Like
one.
There's one. There's exactly
how many
one.
Good to great edge rushers are there? There's a lot, and
but there's only 3 elite ones, and you got one of them.
There were only, for a long time in this league, there were only a handful of elite wide receivers, and paying them was not the ticket to the Super Bowl. That's changed, of course, as the rules have changed in football. But I just, until I see a direct correlation of paying edge rushers to success, it sucks because these are great players.
Like saying,
awesome.
I mean, we weren't going to start running the football again until Saquon won the Super Bowl. Like that. I mean, obviously that you got to see things work out all the way, like to where somebody's holding Lombardi for it to work out. Like if the Wildcat formation would have won the Super Bowl, trust and believe the next season everybody would have been running it. So I think that as soon as somebody does, and we did see edge rushers affect the Super Bowl, Josh Sweat went and got a deal this offseason.
Yeah, none of them were making $40 million a year.
Absolutely. But we've seen edge rushers specifically. Now imagine if the Eagles had a Micah Parsons type in the Super Bowl. The sky is the limit. And obviously things don't work out that way, and the reason they don't have a Micah Parsons type is because the way they've worked out.
It's because they've chosen to have A.J. Brown and the best offensive line in football and Saquon Barkley. That's why they don't have Micah Parsons.
And but the same reason why they might not work out this season is because they could have a Micah Parsons type, because they lost however many different guys this offseason, and they could have just had one guy that is your pass rush. So it is a fluid situation. Both of us could be wrong. That's the thing.
Well, right, and different players dictate different things. Felix will follow you on social at Felix R. Johnson. It's a conversation we can continue as the weeks come, as these pass rushers are commanding to get paid. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you, gentlemen.
Be good. We're going to come right back. We got more Sports Daily Stadium talk with the Chiefs right after this.
Lightning, hail, tornadoes, flooding. It's the worst of severe weather, and it's coming. Spring brings warmer temperatures, but also dangerous weather conditions. Stay up to date day or night with the Storm Team 12 weather app. You'll get accurate forecasts so you can plan ahead and stay safe, no matter the weather. Download the Storm Team 12 weather app, brought to you by Stutzman's Greenhouse.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message, so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
This is Rich Eisen. Check out The Rich Eisen Show, 11 until 2 on Wichita's #1 sports station, Kansas Fan Headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Odyssey is one of the most influential audio and entertainment brands in the nation. You already know Odyssey's iconic local radio brands in Wichita. But did you know Odyssey has the country's best collection of music, news, and sports brands? Odyssey is also a premium podcast creator, major event producer, and digital innovator. Odyssey brings people together across the country and right here in Wichita. Odyssey also delivers meaningful radio and digital audio results. Find out our story and impact at odysseyinc.com/Wichita.
Make yourself known now.
8310 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. Thanks to Crestview Country Club for being a great sponsor of the program. They turned over their menu, Tommy, and I went in a little bit with restaurants. Very, very delicious at Crestview. We appreciate their support. We've told you that before. They changed their menu. Had a few things. Did not have the soup. So you'll have to wait on that. But had a sandwich, salad. It was really good. It was really, really good. I was excited to see it. And when they said they overhauled the menu, it's overhauled. It's a lot of new stuff.
I'm going to have to get out there to check it out. There are some staples that have been on that menu for a while that I love. So hopefully they're still on there with some new stuff on. I'm excited to try it out.
I bet your staples are still there. But I was impressed with all of the things that my wife and I collectively tried. So just one of the great things about Crestview Country Club is that bar and that restaurant right there on site. Give them a call, talk to them. You can utilize that stuff with different kinds of memberships. Doesn't even have to be all about the golf. Of course, the golf is looking great all the time. And there's a lot of trees gone now. Every time you go out there, it looks a little different because they're having to take down so many trees from that bad weather and other things.
Yeah, back in June, we had that windstorm right before the Wichita Open. So they're removing trees out there. I got a video from a buddy of mine, and he had a video going of the crews knocking down a tree on the South Course, on the back nine of the South Course. I think it was on number 15, I believe. And it's a tree that hangs over the fairway. And he texted the group a video, and he said, number 15 just got easier. And I said, good, I'll probably double that hole now instead of triple it every time I play it. So it made it slightly easier, I would say.
Is that stupid hole with the little creek down the way? And God, that hole kicks my tail. I don't even know where to go with that one.
Well, now there's one less tree to stand in your way.
That will help. That will help. But like the path to the green is so narrow. That's a wild hole. Anyway, give him a call. Tell him we sent you. I just a few more thoughts on what we were talking about with Felix there, because I've become fascinated by this, and then we'll get to Clark Hunt's conversation yesterday with the media about the stadium. I just like sometimes you have to be bold in the NFL. I think back to the Patriots and the way they sort of did things. Having the highest paid edge rushers, I just don't see why that's a smart thing to do based on anything, like any collection of data or anything that we're seeing. I mean, again, Chris Jones is the unicorn just of defensive linemen in general, but he does so many things other than rush the passer specifically. Whereas certain players like Parsons and Hendrickson, like those guys are known to maybe not be very good against the run and all of these other things. But, we give maybe the Bengals a hard time for committing to the weapons around Burrow. But the reality is, what's going to help the Bengals win a Super Bowl? It's if they have Burrow as this elite quarterback. It's not going to be the thing that wins Super Bowls. And I think that like what the Chiefs just did with Karlaftis, or like there's one other outlier, which is Nick Bosa with the Niners, where you could, because he's up there too. Of course, that hadn't worked out now, but they're pretty snake bitten. I don't. It's this trend and it's this narrative that, you got to pay these guys. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, you don't. Like you probably shouldn't.
As it relates to the Bengals, I mean, I disagree with you, because clearly the fact that they didn't have a defense at all, and they had Trey Hendrickson, but other than that,
I would have done Hendrickson instead of Higgins too.
They absolutely didn't make the playoffs because they didn't have a defense. That had nothing to do with Joe Burrow and a lack of offense and the, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all of that. They gave up 38 points to the Commanders last season. They gave up 41 to the Ravens. They gave up
Tommy, they had Hendrickson on that defense.
I know, but my point is that you have to be able to prioritize the unit, and part of that is it can be your star edge rusher. And I don't disagree that to win a Super Bowl, when you get to that point, you have to have the elite offense and the quarterback and all of that. But to at least get to that place, you've got to be able to have a solid defensive unit. And that includes, in a lot of cases, a star edge rusher. It's not the only piece, but it's a very important piece.
But we can't pretend like the Bengals defense is going to be terrible if they don't have Hendrickson. They were terrible when they did have Hendrickson. So wouldn't that money be better served then, or through draft capital in a better collective unit, spending the money across the defense, drafting some play? And I know there's a trust factor in with the front offices involved. Of course there is. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I mean when I say like Parsons is going to be the reason the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. Hendrickson was already on the team and their defense was terrible. So why does bringing him back make that much of a difference? Right? They were already terrible anyway. They couldn't have been much worse. And a lot of his sacks, and I love that player too, but a lot of his sacks came because they were high octane type games and he had lots of opportunities and all those kinds of things. I think, and it's not that I don't love these players. I love these players. TJ Watt and Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons and Hendrickson. These are all studs that I love watching play football. But if I'm a front office executive, I'm more inclined to go the Belichick route. I'm going to make sure my quarterback is in the best position possible. I'm going to make sure the protection for my quarterback is as high as it possibly can be. And I'm going to keep drafting young players. And honestly, it's kind of what the Chiefs have done outside of Chris Jones. Again, this outlier. Chris Jones has always been because before, like other than that, they've paid pass rushers, but it hadn't always worked. I'm far more interested in them making sure their offensive line is in good working condition, or do what they did with Karlaftis. Identify a guy early, take a little bit of a risk, but potentially get a significant discount for his services. If you look at the contracts of these guys, it's those guys in that second tier of pay that are playing for the teams that have chance to win a Super Bowl. It's not the top ones.
I do think that in retrospect, knowing what's been going on with Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson and all of that, it does make the George Karlaftis extension seem that much smarter for the
It
Chiefs.
does.
And again, he's not a top 5 defensive end or
He's
anything
not as
like
good as
that.
those guys.
But he doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to
He only has to be half as good based on his contract.
Absolutely. And the Chiefs have him locked up. And so the upside is there. Can he continue to improve? Sure. I mean, he could be a top 10 edge rusher. There's no doubt about that. But even if he doesn't, the Chiefs were able to get him at a relative bargain compared to if they were to go out on the open market and try to have to sign somebody in free agency. The other option could be they could have let him walk and then draft again. But there's an even larger risk with that because you don't know how these guys are going to develop long term. And so, I mean, here's an example, by the way. We don't talk about this guy a whole lot anymore, but a guy by the name of Felix Uzama, they took relatively high. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick for the Chiefs. And in retrospect, do they feel like they maybe whiffed on that one a little bit? Maybe. I mean, I think that, he's not I don't know if his story is already fully written, but it's getting pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And to the point of this conversation, what has been a bigger blow to the franchise? Him not panning out or Kingsley Suamataia not panning out at left tackle?
Yeah.
Which is more important to their chances to win a Super Bowl? I mean, I think it's a direct, which one has a bigger impact on that team? And if we are weighting this league so heavily to the quarterback, which we are, there are certain things I think that have to become bigger priorities than others. And right now, in the current landscape, it's not the biggest priority, but it's being paid like it is. Like outside of quarterback, these are the next highest paid dudes. I don't think it translates. I don't think there's a good track record of it translating. All right, real quick, let's talk about Clark Hunt yesterday. He was asked, he did his sound with the media. We didn't get a lot out of it. He basically told us what we already knew. They're still deciding on what to do. He laid out the two things, and he did say he was asked, about different amounts of money on the table for the Chiefs themselves, based on state laws, based on renovation. And he said, from a family standpoint, we're not really focused on our financial commitment. We're more focused on getting it right, picking the best option that's for our fans and for the community, for the organization for the next few decades, which is, no offense to Clark Hunt if you're listening, total BS. Of course, it's about the financial commitment of your family. If this was about what's best for the fans and the community and everything else, you'd pay for the damn stadium yourself.
Yeah.
Right. We all know that. You don't have to try to pretend it's not about the financial commitment. Of course it is. That's the only thing it's about. Or you would build it yourself. You just pay for whatever you want to pay for.
Yeah, I mean that's nothing new. I mean, we get fed lines like that.
You're doing us this great favor. Come on.
I mean, honestly, what's best for the fans would be probably a renovated Arrowhead, right? Like if you're really looking at what is actually best for the collective
best for the fans is not impacting their taxes and building a stadium yourself. I don't care what you do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so let's not try to steer the ship that way, because that's disingenuous and that's going to fracture things more. And for me, don't do that. Don't do that. Say and be honest with, we're going to make the best business decision that's in front of us. And we want this to be the coolest thing for the fans and the greatest things for these states. And we want to do our part to make sure these are worthwhile investments, but not, it's not really about our financial commitment. It's about what's best for the fans. No, it's not. Stop.
Well, and the good thing for them is that there's not going to be, a lot of financial commitment for them. I mean, it'll be significantly in half. But I mean, it's collectively, speaking, it could be a whole lot more of a financial commitment from a billionaire family, right? That's the way that sort of thing usually plays out.
Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? Like I've got no issue with this. This is they have created something that allows them to do their business this way. Good for them. I don't have a problem with it, but don't sit up there and say stuff like that. That does bother me. Like don't pretend like this is something that it's not about the money. What does Jim Rome always say? When they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. It's not about the money. Yes, it is about the money. Or you wouldn't be lobbying 2 state governments to get more money. Of course, it's about the money.
It's always about the money.
Yes. So
and the people who are the loudest when they say it's not about the money means it's absolutely 100% is about the money.
We don't need to go down that road. We get it. Like you're going to be in a good position either way. We're all excited about the potential of what could happen and all these things, but don't tell us it's not about the money. He was asked about, Trent McDuffie, didn't get a lot into it. I think it was mostly about the stadium stuff, but I don't think anything's changed. We're just waiting. Like they're doing their due diligence. It is a complicated process, and they're trying to kick the can down the road. Timer's up, though. He did say, Tommy, they expect like 5 years to build this thing. We're at 5.5 years until their lease is up. So the clock is ticking. Here we go. We'll come back. We got more Sports Daily. Don't go away.